All right. Okay, we're good.
Welcome everyone. Today Amanda and I are going to present about 5 ways hormonal imbalances are keeping you from feeling your best and how to take action.
Oh, and of course we are already having technical difficulties. So what we're going to be going through today are tips to maximize your experience. Right now, I just want to make sure that everyone has everything turned off. I definitely, on my computer, I put the little do not disturb thing on since I don't do that enough and then it messes me up. I also put my phone on airplane mode, which you still get in like the do not disturb, and things will still come through if they're like marked as emergency. So that's always a good thing. You should do that at night when you sleep too. Take some notes. If you find any of this interesting or if something really resonates you, we highly recommend writing it down. We are going to be sending a replay out, so you'll be able to have that if you need it. But just so you can start taking action today, we recommend taking some notes and making sure that you stay till the end for your free gift and your special bonus. We made a guide that goes along with this webinar. It's about getting started optimizing your hormones, and just 10 tips. These are like our best tips. This is what we go through with clients, what we've done with ourselves. So make sure you stay for that. And then we're going to give you a special bonus offer. And of course, value this time. You're taking it to prioritize your health. I think that like this is something whenever I'm listening to a webinar and I hear someone say it, it's like, this is time for you and you're worth it and you should be prioritizing it. So feel good about that and like don't let things distract you or get in your way. And we appreciate your time, so we want to make it worth your while.
Okay, today's agenda, what we're going to talk about in this presentation. So obviously from the name of the presentation, we're talking about 5 common ways hormonal imbalances are keeping you from feeling amazing every day. And I think this is where we get hung up a lot and we kind of get used to just not feeling good, and it's just a new normal for us, but our bodies are meant to feel good. And what we see with women especially is that hormonal imbalances are causing symptoms that are just interfering with our everyday life and causing issues that we're going to talk about today, just not feeling as good as you should. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about how to avoid these issues and how you can start taking action. So obviously we want to give you the information, but we also want to give you steps to take so that you can start feeling better. We're going to give you all of our success secrets to start optimizing and balancing your hormones. So we'll talk a lot about those during the presentation, but of course you'll get the free guide that goes a lot more in depth, even outlines and links some of our favorite products and different tips there. And then lastly, we're going to go into how you can get the right hormonal testing and a customized protocol to address what your specific imbalances are. So we'll talk about that a lot more in depth later, but basically these symptoms, a lot of them we do experience. Some may experience others more often, but it really shows you that your body is so unique and your specific hormonal imbalances are unique to you. So to actually really get to the root of what's going on, you need to do some personalization. So we'll talk about that.
Yes. And just a quick little disclaimer here. We're just letting you know that we are not doctors and we don't pretend to be. We also are both qualified nutrition professionals. We have licenses, certifications, and we're here to teach and guide you, but we don't know you, right? We don't work one-on-one with you. So if you're going to take any of the tips that we are giving you into consideration, make sure you talk with whoever you work with, who your healthcare practitioner provider is regarding any concerns that you have or implementing anything from this webinar.
Okay, let's get started. So a couple questions for you that we really want you to think about. Are you tired of feeling exhausted? Are you just tired of being tired all the time? Do you struggle with food cravings? Are you tired of being bloated and feeling uncomfortable every time you eat? Do you suffer from PMS symptoms or irregular periods, these things that really interfere with your daily life, but also, every month just feeling terrible for a couple weeks out of the month? Are you struggling to maintain your body weight? Is, that something that is a challenge for you, even though you eat really well and exercise, you just can't seem to lose weight, or, you seem to be gaining weight. Overall, are you frustrated with how you feel every day? We'll talk about a lot of symptoms that affect how you feel, but just think about that. How do you feel on a daily basis, mentally, physically? And is that something that is positive in your life, or is that something that is draining and causes you some frustration? Now you're here, so are you actually ready to start learning how to feel better? You have to also consider this too, because a lot of us don't feel good and we are frustrated with a lot that's going on in our lives, but we have to get to that point where, okay, now you're here, you've taken the first step, you want to learn what to do. So as long as you're ready to do that, we are here to help.
So if you related to any of that, which I'm sure at least if you're here, you can resonate with some of those symptoms and things that Kim mentioned, you're in the right place. So we are integrative nutritionists, but we've also struggled with these problems ourselves, and we've gone through a lot, been at our worst, and done a lot of different things. Like, not only did we go to school for this, which obviously is really important to get the proper training and certifications to have that baseline understanding, but when you actually go through it yourself, I think that just brings it to another level, right? You can relate to people more. We understand what you're going through, and it's easier for us to give you practical tips and to come up with a practical approach that's actually going to work and help you get through and get past a lot of these symptoms. So now we're going to give you, before we kind of like dive into everything, we're going to start with our stories. And all right, that's me. That's an old picture, if you can tell from the video here. My hair is much shorter. Need to get headshots done, but whatever. So I'm Amanda Montalvo. I am a registered dietitian and a functional diagnostic practitioner. And if you're like, what is that? It just means that I'm trained in functional nutrition and specifically functional labs. So not like your typical labs that you would get going to your doctor, but more things like, stress hormones, sex hormone imbalances, detoxification, looking at your gut, stool analysis, things like that. And that's really what my focus is. That's like what I've gone to school for. That's what I do now in my day-to-day life. I'm also the owner of YourNonToxicLife.com. That's my company where I focus on non-toxic living, and all things like female health related. So it's super fun. Stop by. And, Kim and I are like, okay, like we need to share with everyone, be vulnerable, share our stories. Like when we're making this webinar, and I was like, where did my health journey start? Like when I feel like it was in my 20s, but when I really think about it, it was really high school when I definitely wasn't healthy, but that's when I started to get like really unhealthfully obsessed with food, my weight, my body. And it wasn't even something that I experienced like from my environment. Like my mom wasn't a dieter. She always was very like body positive, but it was just like something that I ended up dealing with a lot. And most of the women that I work with and that I talk to have been through this. Most people can resonate that they all have also had those obsessions, that they've been at points where they did not love their bodies. So I feel like I don't think it's normal. I just think it's common. But then luckily when I was 19, I met my now husband, and he introduced me to CrossFit. And that is really where I blossomed, and I got introduced to the paleo diet, which introduced me to this whole functional nutrition, ancestral living like world that I just didn't even know existed. So I was going to school for dietetics. I was going to be a dietitian, but I was like, I was eating like low fat. I counted my calories, like all that traditional stuff that I'm sure Kim can relate to too. And anyone watching this can also relate to. It's like, that's what you did to like be healthy, right? And lose weight and feel good, even though I didn't feel good. And then I had a complete 180. I learned to appreciate my body. I cared less about how much I weighed and more how strong I was and what I could do with my body. I like revamped my nutrition completely, started eating paleo. And this like really caused me to dive deep, to be like, okay, so I'm eating paleo, but what is the rest of my lifestyle like? I was taking a birth control pill. I was using really strong prescription cream for my acne. I've had acne, like really bad acne my whole life until now. And I was like, this doesn't like go with what everything else that I'm doing. Why am I working so hard to put these foods in my bodies and to like work out really hard to only to like take a prescription medication when I was like 21. I was like, I don't want to take this anymore. And that's when I whole birth control, which can be tricky and we'll talk about. And that's also in the freebie, a lot of stuff on that. It's like, it can be hard and it can feel impossible. And I made the switch and got off birth control, got my IUD out, healed my acne, and it just forced me to like really dive in deep. And then I started looking at my hormones because I had hormone issues that I was taking the pill for that it wasn't really helping. And it really uncovered a lot for me. Even now, it's like I'm still learning so much every single day. But at that time, I was learning so much about hormones, my digestion, detoxification, stress. And it started to make sense. Like PMS isn't normal. I shouldn't be like out of commission for 2 weeks out of the month. So I got my hormones tested. I started creating protocols. I worked with a practitioner. And it really helped. Like I didn't have PMS anymore. And then I didn't have cravings all the time. My skin got better. And it was really just putting all those pieces together. Like Kim mentioned earlier that, we are all really unique because I tried a lot of things first, right? Like before I saw a practitioner, I was like, I'll heal myself. I'm a dietitian. But really I needed help and I needed a different approach. And what it came down to is like this holistic approach that we have, looking at lab work, looking at what you're eating, looking at your stress levels, your environment. Like, are you happy with your job, your life, like all these different things? And that is what really helped me turn the corner and stop having these PMS symptoms. I don't track my food anymore. I'm not crazy about exercise. I love my body. Believe it or not, it probably took me like a million years to figure out how to do that. But it's been a game changer for me. And I'm definitely still a work in progress because I think it's 2018. I mean, it's really hard not to be stressed, especially because, we're entrepreneurs. So we just have very high expectations of ourselves and we're always doing something or starting a new project if you have nothing to do. So it's a high stress type of lifestyle. So I definitely still deal with hormonal imbalances, but now I recognize them. I'm in tune with my body. I know how to fix it. Like I know, even my husband knows now. He knows my cycle. He knows everything. And it's like, but it's great. It really teaches you a lot and it helps him understand me better. It's a really cool thing. So that's my journey in a nutshell. That's really where I am now, but feeling this way and kind of coming over on that other side, it's what inspired me to help other women. Because all the women we talk to, like they deal with all these things I used to deal with. And I'm like, life doesn't have to be that hard. It really doesn't. And you don't have to feel like crap all the time. And it's not like this, badge of honor that you're a woman, so you have to deal with this stuff. It doesn't have to be like that. So that's why I'm here. And that's what I hope to share with you today.
Okay. And that's me, Kim Jordan. That is not an old picture, but clearly better lighting than I have access to today. So I have a master's in health education and promotion. So I'll go into a little bit more about my journey, but basically that was my kind of start into a career change in health and nutrition. And then I became a certified nutritional therapy practitioner. As like Amanda, I started learning more about a functional and holistic and integrative approach. And I was like, okay, everything I learned is not nearly enough or on track to, what I found to be true. So yeah, where did my health journey really begin? I think I could probably, like Amanda, say so many different big milestones in that, but I know that where it really started was when I was like a kid. I was overweight. And then when I was in my teens, like going in from middle school into high school, which already is a super awkward time period in your life, I was so overweight and I was just like tired of feeling so just terrible mentally and physically. And it obviously started to really interact with my life. So I told my parents, I'm like, I want to lose weight. And I started doing it in what we all believed was a healthy way. Like I started dieting. I started going to the gym. My mom and I used to go to the gym together. But I was like counting calories and counting points and like really obsessed with how much I was eating, which was so unhealthy at the time, but I lost all the weight. So everyone was like, oh, awesome. You're doing so great. So I thought I was doing everything right. And then once I reached the goal weight, actually, I mean, I was young, so it came off really fast. I probably wasn't eating enough too, but I reached my goal weight and I was like much more comfortable in my body. It was like a newfound thing for me, but I just didn't feel much better physically. I always was tired since I was a teenager, since I got my period in the beginning. Everything was always irregular and so painful where I would be like out of commission, even passing out in school so bad with pain in my periods. And it was just not a way to live. You know, you don't know when your period's coming because it's so regular. And then when it does, it just like knocks you out. And then as I got a little bit older, I started the birth control pill as well because my periods were irregular and that was the answer. And I started getting really bad anxiety and digestive issues that I had my whole life that I just accepted was just normal and who I was. Those just got worse, even though I was eating a healthful diet. So I started doing more digging like Amanda did and, you know, started looking more towards like what I'm eating and not just how much. Started like really cleaning up my diet, avoiding processed foods. I still was pretty obsessive about like how much in calories I was eating, but I was also focusing on the quality of my food too. Started feeling a little bit better, but, you know, started bouncing from different doctor to doctor. My gynecologist who told me, no, your anxiety does not have anything to do with the pill. If you go off your pill, your periods aren't going to be regular. This is the only way to fix it. Endocrinologists, all types of doctors. I even started seeing some naturopaths. And that's where I kind of like learned a little bit more. I got into CrossFit as well and learned about paleo. And that really spurred me to learn like, okay, I'm in control of this. I don't have to seek out external help from, you know, obviously guidance at that point is amazing, but if I wasn't seeing the answers, I had to look towards a more holistic approach. So I started doing more research, self-experimentation. This is where I really changed my career path. And, you know, again, like Amanda, I started learning how to like properly nourish my body. And it wasn't just diet, but it was so many other factors. I was always stressed. I was always, you know, had these perfectionist tendencies, which I still do. And, you know, we'll get to that. But learning a more integrative approach was so helpful for me. And I started learning like why I was having irregular periods and why they were so painful and why my gut was always messed up and what was contributing to that and how these hormonal issues that I dealt with since I was, as, you know, as long as I can remember, what the root causes actually were. And I began working, I did work with a few natural practitioners. I went through schooling and certifications for functional nutrition and had a clearer roadmap. I had a way to assess what was going on in my body. I had clear tools that could connect symptoms and, you know, my test results to what I need to focus on. And that was where everything really started to click. And like Amanda, I mean, we both talk about this a lot, but we still are going through some of these issues. I mean, we're both 180 degrees change from where we used to be. But what I think is really interesting is that we've learned how to get more in tune with our bodies. And we work with so many women who are so out of tune with their bodies. And even though they have some of these symptoms, they might not even realize they feel this way. They don't know why. And that's where we're here to teach you. It's not that you're ever going to get this like holy grail to health, but we want to teach you to be more in tune. And that's why we want to talk about these symptoms, because we know on our own health journeys that learning the why and learning the how were the most important pieces. So even though there are some issues that I'm still dealing with, you know, I'm 10 times healthier than I once was and so much more happy. I'm not obsessive about how much I eat. I can enjoy chocolate and wine once in a while because I know it's not going to totally derail me. And I think like achieving this overall healthy balance and realizing what makes me feel my best and addressing the underlying issues is really what got me there. So that's what we really hope to do. We really want to get women more in tune with their bodies. And, you know, I know our stories, whether they resonate with you or not, I'm sure some bits of them do because we see it with so many women, but, you know, we're here to help you and we're here to get you more in tune to maybe some underlying issues that you have so that you can go on and change those.
That was really well said. I love that. So think about this, you know, like think about kind of how we've come to that other side. We've seen that what life can really be like. Like, what would your life look like if you didn't need coffee to function in the morning? I literally never thought I would not drink coffee, Kim. Literally.
No, I know women who won't get. That's a scary thing too. Think about
I
that.
know.
If you thought about right now, if you had to give up coffee in the morning, could you do it? If you said no,
I would always, if like
yeah,
a year and a half ago, I would have said no. It's just
it's
crazy.
amazing.
But if you slept through the night every night, if you woke up feeling refreshed in the morning and ready to tackle a day rather than dragging yourself out of bed, if your clothes always fit and you just felt good in them, if you were more in tune with your natural energy ebbs and flows, what would that mean for you? If your periods were regular and symptoms didn't interfere with your daily life, like maybe for a day or two, but not for like a week or two. If you felt capable of handling any stress that comes your way. So you had this like innate knowledge and belief in yourself that you could do anything. If you knew more about your body cycles and could adjust accordingly, like what would that change for you? And if you truly felt in control of your health and well-being. Think about that, because if you're going to make changes like these, it can be hard. If you know why you're doing it and what the outcome could be, it makes it so much easier. Like there's not even a question of like the choices I make each day. They're easy, they don't take energy, and that's why I can repeat them, and that's why they become a habit. So think about that.
Okay, so here's the fun stuff. We're going to teach you how to get there. So I like to run through questions with these with clients and when I teach classes, because everyone's always like, oh, wow, that'd be nice. But it's true. Like, this is possible. Feeling this way, your periods being regular, I myself never thought that would ever happen. But it did. And it was almost like magic. But obviously there's a lot that goes into it. But when it happens, you're like, wow, this is crazy that I ignored this for so long, or maybe, just kind of dealt with it and thought that was the way things were. But this is possible, and we want to teach you that. We want to show you that it's possible. This is how our bodies are meant to feel, and we're going to help you get there by listening to this presentation and the guidebook and some information that we have for you.
Yes, so don't forget, stay till the end to get the freebie, or it's going to be sent via email. All right, so hormonal imbalances, we are going to start with probably like, I think it probably is like the biggest effect, low energy. I think this probably has the biggest impact in your day-to-day. So things like if you struggle to get out of bed in the morning, not being able to fall asleep or stay asleep impacts your energy. You're feeling wired but tired, so like you kind of have like a flip-flop energy schedule where you're a night owl, you get like a second wind at night, but you're still kind of tired. If you feel sleepy after meals, experiencing that 2 to 3 p.m. slump, so like when you feel like you need either another coffee or like snack or a nap in the afternoon, or just needing coffee or carbs or sugars to give you energy to get through the day. So that's really what we're focusing on here. Those are a lot of the common symptoms that we see. And really, they have so much more to do with our stress hormones than anything. So we're going to be somewhat general here because, again, like if you get your hormones tested, you could have a lot of these symptoms in not exactly, it couldn't just be doesn't have to just be your cortisol. It could be other things too. But for right now, we're mostly focusing on cortisol levels. So, and the reason why this occurs is because we have so many stressors in our daily life, right? So when our brain perceives stress, it alerts our endocrine system and it causes our body to produce hormones that help us react and survive the stressor. So this is a totally normal thing. We need it. It's good for us. The hypothalamus is one of the glands that signals the pituitary, which is another gland in our brain, super important. And then that signals our adrenals to produce cortisol, which is the stress hormone. It's anti-inflammatory, makes you feel really good. It's what gives you the energy. It's what covers up pain. Like if you're doing I remember I used to compete in CrossFit, and like during the workouts, like competing, you just have this surge of like cortisol and adrenaline and you don't feel anything. So that is a stress response. And it's anti-inflammatory, makes so you're not feeling lots of pain. It also is breaking down sugar in the body to give you energy. There's lots of things going on, but this can occur pretty much any time. So if you are stressed at work, if you get in a fight with your loved one, If you do a workout, if you eat inflammatory foods that don't agree with your body, if you're really toxic and your liver's not working properly, like all of those things can cause that same stress response. So I think that's like what makes stress like simple but complex at the same time. So we're really great at handling short bouts of stress. That's how our bodies were designed. So like we get a stressor, like running away from a bear or something, like when we were cave people. But then after you chill, right, you're like pretty chill the rest of the day unless it happens again later. But it's like these short bouts. But now we're always on our phones, we're always on our email, we're always working, or like experiencing some sort of stressor, and then add in inflammatory foods to that, add in any gut issues. If you have like a parasite or a pathogen in your gut, you won't even know it, and you're having that same stress response. So it's really easy to go into overdrive. And when we have these chronic stressors all the time, then even like our feelings of like depression, inadequacy, like any sort of mental, emotional, that's also gives you that same stress response. So it's really easy for our bodies to overdo it. Our adrenal glands get tired, our hypothalamus and pituitary, the feedback loop that makes that hormone, it gets tired and it can't keep up. And eventually our bodies also will protect us from producing too much cortisol. So they'll actually slow down that feedback loop because we have too much cortisol in our blood. So that's another thing. And it's really what it's causing is a dysregulation. And then that dysregulation is it's just an adaptation to what we're putting our bodies through on a regular basis. So that leads to things like not being able to get out of bed in the morning, because a healthy cortisol pattern is high in the morning, like super high, and then it goes down and slowly goes down as the day goes on. At night, cortisol is the lowest. It follows a diurnal pattern or a circadian rhythm. So it's just like with the light, how we should live and sleep. That's how our cortisol is. So if when you get up in the morning, if you have a lot of stress in your life, you could have some dysregulation. Maybe you have low cortisol. You're going to be tired. You're not going to want to get out of bed in the morning. If you're really stressed and you haven't gotten to that point yet, you could have really high cortisol and feel really good. Or you could have a flip-flop schedule where this happens to me easily because I'm on my computer all the time and I don't get enough sun, where I will sometimes be wired at nighttime. So we're going to go through some tips to kind of regulate all this, but this is really like the major one that we see a lot, low energy, and looking at trying to regulate those cortisol patterns so that you feel good and you have good energy throughout the day and you're not having like slumps. Other things that can impact this are also blood sugar and the foods that you're eating. So if you're eating really processed foods, then you're going to have like really high blood sugar, then really low blood sugar, and that gives you dips in your energy, right? So your blood sugar levels directly correlate to how your energy is throughout the day. But that's really what we mean by low energy, and that the hormonal imbalance is your stress hormone, cortisol.
Okay, so some tips to dealing with hormonal imbalances that can cause low energy. So specifically framing this from a cortisol, especially like a circadian rhythm imbalance, what are some things that you can do? So the number one thing is to get morning sunlight. Even just 10 to 20 minutes in the morning, this can really help to regulate those healthy circadian rhythms and get your body back in a healthy balance where cortisol is high in the morning, low at night. And this is actually in a reverse relationship with melatonin. So getting that morning light and at the same time, decreasing the light that you're exposing yourself to later at night. So using like blue blocker glasses or apps on your phone that make your screen look orange and your computer, those actually help with your circadian rhythm. Something else to do is limit your refined sugar intake. So like Amanda was mentioning, your blood sugar has a direct relationship with your stress hormone and vice versa. So all these really highly refined sugars and sweeteners like white sugar and corn syrup and things like brown rice syrup that are in some like healthier foods, these enter your bloodstream immediately and your body releases insulin to bring your blood sugar down. But when your blood sugar spikes really quickly and really fast and high, as it does with very refined and processed sugars, your body reacts very fast and it's going to pump out a lot of insulin, which is just going to bring that blood sugar back down and crash. And cortisol is going to be released to bring your blood sugar back up. And you kind of get into this pattern of blood sugar roller coaster, which directly impacts cortisol, but also directly impacts your energy. You've probably been through a scenario where your blood sugars drop too low and you know how terrible you feel, and you likely will be craving sugar or caffeine or carbohydrates to bring it back up. And that's even something that, people will do to bring their blood sugar back up, but just know that those really intense ups and downs are interfering with your stress hormones and your energy overall. The last thing is cutting caffeine intake. So this one's so sensitive. I feel like people are more possessive over their caffeine than they are their sugar. But this is so important, and maybe something that's not as well known. We kind of are in tune to the fact that sugar is not so great for us, but caffeine does have awesome benefits in a vacuum. I think when we're really exposed to chronic stress and we're piling on caffeine, this is where we see imbalances with your stress hormones. Caffeine's a nervous system stimulant, so it doesn't necessarily give us energy, it gives us stress, and that stress response is what gives us energy. So it actually causes that spike in blood sugar, which, again, goes with all of those other things I just mentioned in terms of stress hormone release and blood sugar roller coaster. So just know that caffeine, it does affect your body a lot differently than sugar, but it has some similar effects on cortisol and blood sugar. So if you're somebody who does need coffee to get started in the morning, or you're reaching for it midday around 2-3 o'clock, if you're drinking multiple cups throughout the day just to function properly, then it might be a really good idea to just start cutting back on it. And whether you want to do that cold turkey or just go slowly, you'll probably start to notice some benefits and just get more in tune with what your natural energy is, because it can actually cover up an underlying cortisol and hormonal imbalance if you're just drinking caffeine all day.
I find it makes me more tired. I might be, if I have it, sometimes I'll have it if I'm traveling or something like that, which usually if I'm on vacation, I can handle more caffeine because I'm not as stressed in other ways, right? Because it impacts our cortisol, stress hormone. But if I'll have it in the morning and then I have a crazy crash later.
Oh, I'll crash. That's the number one. Yeah, that's the number one reason I gave up caffeine. I've given up caffeine a couple times in my life, but I gave it up for good, probably a year and a half ago, because that was what I was realizing. I'm crashing and falling asleep at my desk type of crash. Yeah. And I think, there's only so much willpower you have at that point where you're your body's craving something, and it's really hard when you're that exhausted and your blood sugar is that low. Your body innately wants more stimulation from sugar and carbs. So if you are somebody who deals with that, or maybe even just deals with sugar and cravings, which we're going to talk about next, ironically, caffeine is a huge thing to consider.
Yes. And we talk more about this as one of our tips in the freebie too.
Yes, and some fun substitutes too.
All right, number 2, cravings. So cravings are intense urges for very specific foods. I think we all know what it means when we think of a craving. They can be things that occur regularly, on a daily basis, weekly, or according to your cycle, which is probably the most common one that we see. And it's really, you just have this feeling of there are specific foods that you're I could never give these foods up. If you have a food that we're I can't keep this in the house kind of food, that's definitely a craving. And some really common ones, chocolate, I think that's probably the first one, or salty, crunchy foods like chips, and red meat is another very common craving. And it could be even for textures or things that aren't even food items, but that's kind of a whole nother focus. But cravings are not hunger, right? It's not your stomach is growling or you can feel your blood sugar dropping. They're very specific, and it's based on a food, and it's typically based on how that food's going to make you feel. It's something that you want now right away. You almost can get hangry and really you have strong emotions about it. But a really important thing that we've learned on our journeys from getting to know our bodies is that cravings are communication. Listen to your cravings. So your body could have an imbalance or could not be getting enough of something, so it gives you a craving for a specific food item. And it might not even be that it's that food, but like we know like certain cravings, like chocolate is typically related to magnesium. So if you're like wanting to have chocolate all the time, you might want to consider thinking about, are you getting enough magnesium in your diet from like leafy greens and stuff like that? Like salty, crunchy foods, that's also sugar. Like I think a lot of people think of sweet foods as a sugar craving, but chips break down to sugar in the body too. So either way, it's really very similar. And just like there's different imbalances that could be occurring. So hormonal changes during our cycle are a really big reason that we get cravings. So if you, I see them probably the most with like estrogen dominance, like higher estrogen levels, if you have a lot of cravings, or if someone's on the pill. And the main reason, if you take birth control, it depletes certain vitamins and minerals, especially B vitamins. And we need B vitamins to process and digest sugar and carbs in the first place. So it's almost like this vicious cycle of like, you want more sugary or carb heavy foods, you eat them, you deplete everything more, and it just makes you crave them more. So thinking about that, and other like omega-3 fatty acids, iron, zinc, those are also big ones. And knowing that, you know, cravings for things like fried or fatty foods and chocolate or red meat, it's probably that you need more healthy fats and magnesium in your diet. Same thing with like iron and zinc. That's where you're going to be finding those: red meat, seafood, things like that. At least like the most bioavailable sources.
And those are big cravings. I know a lot of women who just like, I want a burger when I have my period, because it's definitely a sign from your body. Yeah, you need
I always eat more
iron.
red meat when I have my period because I'm like, I'm bleeding, I need the meat. And it does make you feel better because like if your iron is low, your energy is going to be low.
Exactly.
Cortisol imbalances are, I think this is probably the second most common one that we see, and it could even be taking over that hormonal one. So if you have imbalances in your cortisol, like highs and lows or really low cortisol throughout the day, it can cause you to crave certain things because, you know, cortisol, our changes in cortisol output is going to directly impact our adrenals. And then that impacts aldosterone, which is something that is going to help control our blood pressure and our specific like blood volume in the body. And it also manages our sodium and our potassium. So cravings for foods that have a lot of these things, like salt, if you have like a lot of salt cravings or things like that, it's telling you that there's an imbalance, right? When your aldosterone is low, which is really common if you're stressed all the time because of cortisol, it can cause your kidneys to actually close the salt and blood volume, and it just gets much lower. So if you're having more cravings for salt, like typically that's associated with chronic stress. And that's like when I start having those cravings, I know I'm like, I need to do more to take care of myself and slow down, because it's like a huge red flag for me. And chronic dieting is another really big stressor on the body, and that's going to increase your cravings too. So it's a stressor, so it's going to mess with your cortisol levels, which is why it's kind of going in this cortisol imbalance category. But it's also going to make you have really strong cravings for certain foods. Blood sugar is another one. So when our body is stressed out, it recognizes that it needs fuel to handle the stressors. So that's when we release cortisol, break down some sugar in our bodies. And then it kind of creates a cycle where it's regulating your blood sugar and also messing with your cortisol hormones. So when we are super stressed out, it's really common to get those sugar cravings because we're used to having those spikes in our blood sugar throughout the day, because that's what our cortisol is doing. And just knowing that, you know, our blood sugar is very mineral dependent. So if you have certain nutrient deficiencies, then it can make it hard to regulate your blood sugar. And same thing, produce hormones, all that type of stuff. But certain hormones like zinc and chromium, like chromium is that there's so much research on that now, especially for blood sugar and people that have diabetes, that you can get more cravings for red meat and sugary foods if you are depleted in those nutrients. So just something to think about. There can be more reasons for cravings, but those are kind of like the major ones and kind of like the foundation.
Okay, so some tips dealing with cravings. Start tracking your menstrual cycle. You might not have been expecting this one, but tracking your cycle and knowing where you are in your cycle is the only way to know your body's natural rhythms. And that's going to help you actually nourish those different hormonal patterns. So, certain hormones are higher and lower at certain parts of your cycle. That can also signal needs for different nutrients. So once you're tracking your cycle and also being able to align your cravings in that cycle, you'll start to notice some patterns. So you can track the symptoms that you're having and, correlate those with whatever cravings you're having and see what could your body need. For example, something I see really often, and this was something that was really true for me, was with menstrual cramps. Like really intense menstrual cramps can be a sign that you need more omega-3 fats. So if you're somebody who has menstrual cramps and maybe craves fatty foods during your cycle, that could be a signal that you might need omega-3s. If you have headaches or back pain, that can also be a sign. If you're craving chocolate during your period or around your period, could be a sign of magnesium. So knowing when your cravings are happening and being able to link that up with your cycle is so empowering and is great information to have. Probably, one of 100 reasons why it's really important to start tracking your cycle. Balancing your meals with quality protein, fat, and carbohydrates. So this is going to help with blood sugar balance and also connects with cortisol and stress hormones. So you want to choose protein sources, fat sources, and carb sources that are in their most whole, unprocessed forms. So we talked before about super refined foods and how those are very quick to spike your blood sugar. These types of nutrients, protein, fats, these are more satiating. They don't have those intense effects on blood sugar. And complex carbohydrate sources that have more vitamins and minerals and fiber, these are digested much more slowly than the more highly processed, refined versions like white grain products and white sugars. So when you're balancing your meals out with these three nutrients, you're actually creating more stable streams of nutrients into your bloodstream. You're actually creating more stable energy and blood sugar, which directly correlates with healthy cortisol patterns. Letting your blood sugar dip too low and then that roller coaster spikes up and downs really interferes with healthy cortisol balance. And then the last, sorry, Amanda, were you saying something?
No.
Okay.
No, good.
The last thing is to eat more dark leafy greens. So again, this is just like one reason why we say to eat these, but a lot of the nutrients that we're commonly depleted in. So we mentioned magnesium, we mentioned zinc, vitamin C, these things that we are craving foods because we're depleted in, ironically, are also depleted by chronic stress, but also they're found in dark leafy greens. So, kale, spinach, broccoli rabe, bok choy, these nutritional powerhouse vegetables that you get so much nutrition from. And we'll talk a little bit about this in a few minutes, but a lot of these greens also fall into a category of cruciferous vegetables. So they support detoxification, especially of your hormones. So for supporting overall hormonal balance, these are a category of food that is amazing to add into your diet on a daily basis.
Okay, so we still have 3 more tips, so we're going to try to move through these quicker since we only have 15 minutes left. But know that all this information is in that freebie, so it's pretty awesome. All right, so brain fog. This is another really common symptom that's impacted by hormones that I think that people don't necessarily associate with hormones. And a lot of the symptoms are like if you're more forgetful, if you feel like you have to write everything down or you're not going to remember it, difficulty concentrating or maintaining your attention, or if you get distracted all the time, confusion or feeling spacey, and a decrease in creativity. So like you feel like you just can't produce. Those are all really common symptoms. And a lot of it has to do, like there's a very delicate hormone balance that occurs in our brains, and that like we do a lot of neurotransmitter communicating from our brain to our gut. So it can easily be impacted if we have an imbalance or dysregulation in your hormones, especially if you're chronically stressed and you have a really high cortisol output. Your body's inflamed, but your brain is also going to be inflamed. And it also directly impacts our gut. So that's like a really big one, like leaky gut can occur. You can inflame your gut lining with different stressors from your life, but also like your diet or parasites, bacteria, things like that. And you have the gut brain axis where they literally speak to each other. A lot of your neurotransmitters are made in your gut. So there's more communication from that as well. And just knowing that like chronic stress, like it not only impacts your hormones, your gut health, but also your brain health. And kind of like, if you feel like you can relate to a lot of these, I think a lot of this, like, because I'm in the detox world, like people are like, oh yeah, brain fog, you need a detox. And I'm like, that's not necessarily true. You know, like pretty much everyone needs to work on detox every day, but it's probably not the cause of your brain fog. It's probably like stress, blood sugar, things like that. We have more information on low thyroid, but we cannot even go into that. But just know stress impacts your thyroid. If you have thyroid issues, keep watching and download the freebie.
Okay, so tips for dealing with brain fog from a hormonal perspective. So the goal is to really support your gut, your liver, and your overall hormonal balance. So taking into account cortisol, thyroid, reproductive hormones, hydrate properly. Water is so important. It regulates your body temperature. It helps to cushion your bones. It does so many important things. But in terms of hormones, it supports digestion. It supports toxin and waste removal. And it's crucial for blood flow, which actually transports nutrients and transports hormones. So if you're chronically dehydrated, your hormones just aren't going to be as efficient and effective. So your goal is to drink half your body weight in ounces a day, and maybe adding more depending on thirst, or if you drink coffee or you exercise and you sweat a lot. The next tip is to eat more cruciferous veggies. So I touched upon this before, but vegetables in this category, kale, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, these sulfurous vegetables, they're rich in fiber, so they support digestion and elimination, which is so important for brain fog, but they also contain a compound that converts to DIM. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this word because I hate it. Diindolylmethane. Okay,
yeah,
that's it. This compound assists with estrogen metabolism, so gets rid of your excess estrogen, which is so important to your overall hormones. But when it comes to brain fog, just like that buildup of hormones in your body is a contributing cause. And then healthy fats. So, what we mean by healthy is things that are natural and unprocessed and close to their whole states. So fats are so crucial for hormone balance. And I think a lot of women coming from, we come from this low fat dieting mentality. Fats are actually good. We need them for our hormones. It's direct fuel for our brains too. Our brains are actually about 60% fat. So if you're not eating enough fat, obviously it's going to impact your brain function from a physiological perspective, but also from a hormonal perspective. So, try to get these in, and we give you some more tips in our guide about doing this, but try to get at least one serving in at every meal.
And our fourth common imbalance and symptom is bloating. So thinking of it as like a sense of fullness after a meal, abdominal discomfort after eating, reaching for sweats and leggings because your jeans don't fit by the end of the day. Like I think a lot of people have, especially on Instagram, I see people normalizing having a bloated stomach at the end of the day and saying that it's normal. It's not. Gas or belching after meals, or feeling more bloated at certain times in your cycle. These are a lot of the common symptoms. And we often think of bloating as being directly related to our digestive health, and it can be. It definitely can. Or like if you have a food intolerance and you happen to be eating that food, or if you eat really fast, you definitely can get bloating from things like that. But there's also a very close connection to our hormones. So if anything like stands out to you, definitely pay attention. So if we have increased stress hormones like cortisol, this is directly impacting our gut and our liver and how we're eliminating or using the bathroom, having a bowel movement, whatever you want to call it. Because this buildup of toxins and waste products, especially if you're not going to the bathroom every single day, at least once a day, can lead to more bloating, which I don't think a lot of people think about their toxicity levels, bloating, and how that interacts. It's not, it has a huge impact. Like if you're not pooping every day, you have excess hormones, excess toxins in your body, and they're just getting recycled back into your system. If you find that you're bloated after meals, you probably have a digestive issue, and it's probably related to not being able to get into that relaxed state when you're eating. So if we're constantly stressed and we're not getting into that relaxed state, then we don't actually get to activate all the different things that are supposed to occur during digestion. like your stomach releasing stomach acid, the different enzymes that are supposed to be excreted to help break down that food and help you absorb it. And it can just lead to like digestive issues, nutrient deficiencies, all that kind of stuff. But that, and then like leaky gut, having imbalances in your gut bacteria and things like that. So that's like kind of another area. But another one that relates directly to your hormones is being bloated at certain times in your cycle. So progesterone plays a lot of important roles in the body. Well, if you take we'll get into that. But one specifically that related to bloating is that it acts as a diuretic. So if progesterone is low, like, and you have definitely more estrogen dominant, then your body can retain more water and you can feel more bloated. Like especially like outside of your period too, like if you're other times in your cycle, you're feeling bloated. So progesterone is naturally low in the beginning of your cycle from menstruation to the luteal phase. So that first half of our cycle, and then more bloating is going to be likely to occur there. If you're feeling more bloated at the end of your cycle, then that could mean that you have an imbalance. And we have some more about estrogen, but we have to move on. I feel bad. But I don't know if we won't be able to get it through everything. But we did go into more on the cycle in the freebie. So
all right. Tips for bloating. So consider foods that are stressing your gut. So, anything that's messing with your gut can actually cause a release in stress hormones, more inflammation in your body. And those inflammatory markers in your body actually do influence your hormones. So we say start with anything that's like really highly processed and chemically refined, foods that have a lot of ingredients in them and just don't sound like food. But also, gluten and dairy. There's proteins. Gluten is a protein found in certain grains, and casein is a protein found in dairy that are really tough to digest and do incite an inflammatory response in a lot of people. So if you are, constantly feeling bloated after meals, this is something to consider because it's not just affecting your digestion, but it affects your immune system and your hormones too. Roasted dandelion root tea. This is an interesting tip. So roasted dandelion root actually directly supports your liver. So it supports detoxification, especially of your hormones. We recommend, you can enjoy this whenever, but drink this in the second half of your cycle because this is when your hormones are at their peak. So this can really just assist your liver in doing its normal job. The last thing is ginger. We love ginger, whether it's fresh fruit or dried ginger, like as a spice. This stimulates digestion. It helps to stimulate the release of digestive compounds to break down food, so that can help with bloating. But it also has really powerful anti-inflammatory effects, and it can assist with menstrual pain, cramps, headaches as well. So it's kind of like this multi-purpose food that can assist with a number of different symptoms, but especially bloating if you have a lot of digestive issues.
Yes. Love ginger.
Love ginger.
Okay, so chronic pain, this is the fifth symptom that we're kind of addressing, an imbalance that we see. It can be caused by a lot of different factors, but hormones definitely play a significant role in that, especially for pain associated with our menstrual cycle. So painful menstrual cramps, that's a really common one. Headaches and migraines is a really big one, especially if they're around when you get your period. Back pain, having joint pain and stiffness, or muscle pain and weakness. So imbalanced hormones, especially inflammation management hormones called prostaglandins, and stress hormones, they're what can cause and lead to more chronic pain in any of the areas, like symptoms that we mentioned, so whether it's your joints, your menstrual cramps, headaches, back, anything like that. So our bodies produce prostaglandins to help manage inflammation. So if you have a lot of chronic stress in your life, or even hidden stressors you might not even know about, your body can produce more prostaglandins. And some of them are actually pro-inflammatory. So they can actually reduce inflammation, and some can make inflammation worse. So there has to be a healthy balance between them. And to make these, we use certain types of fats. So that's why we're always talking about eating healthy fats. That's one of our tips. We focus on it a lot, especially for hormone balance. especially essential fatty acids like omega-3 fatty acids. The issue is that we take a high percentage of fats that are used to make pro-inflammatory hormones, and especially like omega-6, which is so easy to get from like vegetable oils, nuts, and seeds. And then we don't take enough omega-3 fats in, and that's what's used to make the anti-inflammatory prostaglandins. So if you can work on balancing those fats in your diet, then it's going to help balance that inflammation in your body. And then when your body is inflamed, it's much more likely to have more menstrual cramps, to get headaches and migraines. Also, like estrogen has a lot to do with headaches and migraines, back pain, joint pain, and stiffness. So if you can work on balancing those, if you deal with a lot of these, like I mentioned earlier, like if you have cramps, like take more omega-3s, like eat more fish. You can get them from other sources as well. That's going to be the most bioavailable source where you don't have to convert things. But this is definitely a really big one for chronic pain. And if you have dysregulated stress hormones, and say you have a weakened adrenal or stress hormone output, so like if you deal with chronic stress for a long time, eventually your body gets weak. It can impact how your ligaments work and feel, especially in your hips. And this is something that Kim taught me because she's done assessments on me, which is really cool. So when this is altered, our hips can become out of balance, and it's going to cause back pain, even knee pain, and this can become chronic. And you don't even realize that, like, if you support your adrenals, take out the major stressors in your life, diet, all that sort of thing, then a lot of that back pain, hip pain, it can go away, which is pretty amazing.
I see that a lot with female CrossFitters.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, and myself included. I had hip problems. I played field hockey in high school, and I always had hip issues. So just learning all about this now. So our tips for chronic pain: increase your intake of turmeric. So this is kind of like a buzzword, a buzz food. That's like really popular now. Yeah, superfood, but it's like very trendy now, but it has like amazing merit. I've, been doing a lot more research on it. It's a really, really potent anti-inflammatory root, similar to ginger, but there's been a lot of studies about it more recently. And it's, again, very anti-inflammatory, so it can help with inflammation and, those obviously inflammatory markers that are causing pain and contributing to pain. You can use it fresh, you can use it dried, you can use tinctures or even supplements, but, I recommend just using it in your cooking. It's a very rich spice, and it absolutely can help to counterbalance hormonal issues because it is so anti-inflammatory. Secondly, Amanda touched upon this, but increasing your omega-3 fat intake. So these are the precursors to anti-inflammatory hormones in the body. So wild fish, grass-fed meats, grass-fed butter, flax seeds, chia seeds, especially in the latter half of your cycle if you deal with menstrual pain, so cramps, back pain, and menstrual migraines. And then the last tip is magnesium. So we do get magnesium from a lot of foods that we eat, especially like dark leafy greens, avocados, nuts, and seeds. But there's a couple different reasons why we're not getting enough. So for one, our soil is very depleted. So there actually is less magnesium in food. It's less bioavailable to us. But also, if you're chronically stressed and you have cortisol imbalances, magnesium stores in your body are used up much faster. So we like a really quick delivery system by using magnesium spray, which is just magnesium, oil that you spray and rub it onto your skin, or Epsom salt baths, which I know are more like time consuming, but they have so many other benefits for your overall hormonal balance, just like get you relaxed and calm and handling stress properly. So those are two things that we highly recommend, especially during your menstrual cycle if you deal with pain.
Yes. So those are our 5 major imbalances that we see. As you can see, there can be a number of different hormones that interact and can be causing each one. So we want you to think about, like your symptoms, what resonated with you? Like, could you relate to a lot of that? Maybe every single thing that we mentioned, maybe only a couple things, and think about what would your life be like? Like, what would it be like if you didn't have to deal with that? Would you have more energy for things that you actually cared about? Would you just in general be able to like work towards your goals more? I mean, my life completely changed when I took all that stuff out of the equation, and I think that Kim would say the same. And it's really coming down to what would happen if you could understand what your body is communicating with you. And, we've gone over like 5 major symptoms that we see in pretty much, we feel like, most people. And we've talked about a lot of different hormones and even talked a little bit about how they can interact with each other. We didn't want to get too complicated, but it's clear that our hormones communicate super closely with one another. They communicate with different organ systems in the body. They're so, so important. But achieving the right balance is really delicate and very personalized. Like if Kim and I had the same hormonal imbalance, we would have to treat it differently because we're 2 different people. And we'd try to keep that in mind. So how can you get a grasp of your hormones and resolve the imbalances that are causing a lot of the symptoms that we mentioned? And, obviously we hope you download our freebie that you're going to get at the end of this and in your email, so that you can start even just applying some of those main principles. We've got 10 ways that you can start optimizing your hormones, really regardless of any imbalance. They're just going to help optimize. But what can you do to kind of get down to those like nitty gritty details? You can start using the tips. You can also start doing some research on your own, like Kim and I did. But the issue is that it's really hard to make all these changes. Like it's hard to understand which research is the best, what practitioners can you trust, which ones don't actually have the credentials to back it up or aren't up on the research. Because one thing with functional nutrition and like holistic health is that it's like a very heavily researched field and it's constantly changing. And it can be really confusing. Nutrition's confusing enough, honestly. We get like lots of confusion around nutrition and what we do on a day-to-day basis. So you could try reading about certain supplements. I hesitate to do that because you want to make sure that you have your lab tests if you're going to try taking things. I think magnesium is fine, turmeric is fine, like herbs for the most part, but some herbs are really powerful. And if you take certain supplements based on a symptom or a guess, it can cause more harm than good down the road. And then it just kind of extends this whole like journey of figuring out how to balance your hormones. We've been there, we've done it for sure.
Not fun.
As you remember in our stories from the beginning, we've tried a lot of different supplements, basically every single diet ever. And we spent a lot of time trying to figure out like what is going on. So in money and money on working with practitioners, which was 100% worth it. But that's really what helped us, like working with someone, learning about like a specific protocol, learning about the foundations of stress and hormones and how they work together, what supplements are needed, which ones aren't, based on different imbalances, and looking at nutritional analysis of our bodies and like where we're at right now in that present moment and what needs to be like nurtured a little bit more. So, we've learned this, we've had this much more functional approach, and that's what we recommend that pretty much everyone does, like unless you don't really have a lot of these symptoms, but you wouldn't be here, right?
You wouldn't have made it this far.
No.
All right. So yeah, here's our answer for you. We want to help you. Amanda and I have done a lot of our own research. We've taken information from both of our personal journeys, which are similar, but we have some differences that, make it unique. So we've taken all of that, our functional nutrition education we both have that, again, has similar foundations, but we've combined, the differences and, bits and pieces from each, and obviously clinical experience. We have worked with women for years. We've worked with probably together over hundreds of women that have had hormonal imbalances. And, we've taken all of what we know, what we've learned, and we've combined it into a program that we want to tell you about. We want to tell you about a really amazing bonus, a special fast action bonus for this program. But before that, we just want to give you a little bit more information about it. So this program is going to include all the tests to test your hormones that we talked about, like getting the right types of testing, one-on-one work with us so that you're, being able to personalize what you're doing and have guidance. You'll also have education on a number of different topics, all related to hormonal balance and, achieving better balance in your life and in your body. And also a community of support, women who are, have the same goals or similar goals to you, women that are been in this position, so you can all work together to support each other along on your journeys.
Which is really important for female hormonal health as well. Having
a tribe.
A tribe. So what is this program? It is called the Body Imbalance Program. It is an in-depth functional nutrition program that's specifically designed for women that want to overcome roadblocks to feeling their best, that want to become more in tune with their bodies and create healthy balance in their lives. We built the program based on our 9 body balance principles, and it's an online program that helps women reconnect with their intuition, balance their hormones, replace restriction and restrictive eating habits with proper nourishment, and naturally revitalize their bodies and minds. That's the goal of the program. It's really detailed. It's based on our functional nutrition training and clinical experience. And so what it is it has 8 weeks of trainings, 100% online. We also have downloadable guides that go with those. Things like a meal plan. We have a private support community. We do email check-ins with everyone in the program, weekly journal prompts, and so much more. We couldn't even put it all in a slide. And then lifetime access to all this, right? Because it is an intensive 8-week program, but we don't expect you to change everything in 8 weeks. I mean, it took us a really long time to implement all these changes. So the goal is to kind of give you access to this for as long as you need. And we also made 2 options, right? So we want to be really inclusive, but we still want to have an option for women that really need help and really need to go beyond just what we're going to offer foundationally. So we have a foundation program that is 8 weeks. And this is more of going through the course content on your own. You're still going to get the emails from us. You're still in the support group. So you still have us and, connection with us for help, but it's not as intensive as our VIP option. So the VIP level is where we are going to do all this testing. So you get, we'll talk about testing a little bit. You get the different tests, you get one-on-one support with us, you get calls with us, you get a personalized protocol based on your tests, and we have you fill out an intake form. But it's really fun, and you get to do the group stuff as well. So we're going to explain a little bit more about what it covers in detail, but we just want to mention kind of what the lessons are.
Okay, so like Amanda mentioned, we have 8 weeks of content here, and actually each lesson has 2 specific topic presentations. So there's a ton of information, but these are the topics we'll go through. So lesson 1 is nurturing your body. Lesson 2, connecting to your intuition. We'll talk a lot about getting into different foods and your female cycle. That's really important topic. We'll talk about identifying and reducing your stressors. So here, again, we're going to dive much more deeply into the stress response and cortisol and what this does to the body. And obviously, how to create a plan to address it, to reduce the amount of stress in your life. Dialing in your energy is lesson 4. So this is where we talked about energy here, and I know we kind of breezed through a lot and it seems very complex. So we're going to get much more in tune with what creates healthy energy and different habits that go along with that, obviously relating to stress hormones and your female hormones as well. We'll talk about toxins in your hormones. So this is probably the most enlightening, I think, lesson, because this is going to teach us what these different toxins do to our hormones and our bodies and our livers, but also where they are. And it's kind of shocking and, can be a little overwhelming at first, but we break it down. We give you a lot of amazing tools for non-toxic personal care and beauty and cleaning products, and basically teaching you a step-by-step way to get rid of the most toxic hormonal disrupting chemicals in your life. We'll talk about supporting gut health and detoxification. So because our guts are so closely connected with every other system in our bodies, especially our hormones, we're going to talk about that in more detail, what a functioning gut should look like, and how to troubleshoot specific issues and really support a healthy gut. And obviously detoxification, we'll talk about how to support those detox systems like your liver. We'll talk about in lesson 7, incorporating nourishing movement. So again, we are definitely framing this more in the way of things that are not punishment and restriction are actually enjoyable and good for your body and good for your hormones. And then lesson 8, we're going to talk about how to tie everything together, how to take all of this information, implement it into your life, and create a lifestyle from it. This is not just about 8 weeks to reset your hormones. This is about 8 weeks to jumpstart and what you're going to do throughout the rest of your life. And obviously you'll have all this information to go back to, but this is a jumping off point for you. So how can you create a healthy, sustainable, balanced life from all the information that we're presenting to you?
And it is like these are shorter lessons. So instead of doing one really long lesson, we broke it up into 2 shorter lessons, and we send you a reminder email each week saying like, hey, don't forget to watch your video. And we also have like different guides and stuff, extra resources that go along with those to help you dive a little bit deeper. So the test, like what does this VIP option look like? So we have everyone complete a Dutch test, which is a dried urine test. This is what we use to test your stress hormones like cortisol. It also measures the metabolites of cortisol, which is important for looking at how much is actually in your body and kind of what pathways are being used there. It also looks at your sex hormones, so estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and it measures DHEA as well. It also measures melatonin. It measures a lot. Melatonin, so we get to see your melatonin levels. They recently added organic acids, so it gives you different nutritional organic acid markers. The 3 are vitamin B12, I think it's B12, B6, and glutathione, which is pretty cool because we need those. They're really important for hormone production. So they're great to know, like, are you deficient in them? What does the balance look like? And then neurotransmitters. So it looks at serotonin, dopamine, and epinephrine and norepinephrine, which is pretty cool. So not only does it give us a look at your hormones, but we get to look at how you're detoxing, your gut health. It tells you how you're methylating, like if you're methylating efficiently, tells you which estrogen pathway your body prefers. This might not make sense to you now, but trust me, if you do the VIP option, it's really cool. And we go through a call with you and we explain what your results mean. And it's really easy. You can do it at home. It's much better than saliva. Like if you've ever heard of getting your hormones tested with saliva or using a blood test, first of all, blood tests are not accurate and it's just like not the best way to test your hormones. Saliva, it gives you maybe like 4 markers, and we're getting like 1 million from the Dutch test. So it gives us a lot of really awesome results. It's my favorite hormone panel to do. I think it's the best for your money, and also just giving a more conclusive look for practitioners. We also are doing a nutritional assessment. So this is going to assess the frequency and intensity of over 300 symptoms. And that this allows us to pinpoint potential weaknesses that you have, imbalances, and deficiencies in your body. So we take the results from the Dutch test. We also take your nutritional assessment, and then we have you fill out an intake form as well. And we use those plus obviously our conversations with you. And this is what we use to create your protocol. So we're going to give you a specific, nutrition and lifestyle protocol, but then you also get some supplement recommendations. And we go through all this with you in one-to-one phone calls. So you get some calls with me, some calls with Kim. We're excited. We think it's a really great approach to kind of giving you a really well-rounded look at everything, but then you also get the group support. And I mean, what you learn in the lessons, just even the foundational program, it is so much, like way more than you would learn just working one-on-one with someone. So it's really cool. We're excited. One note I do want to make about supplements is that we are not like crazy supplement people. I know like in the functional world, people can get pretty crazy with supplements. I've had people come to me taking like over 20 supplements. So we work really hard to find the best quality supplements, blends, so that we're not giving you a million recommendations. Makes it much more practical, and because the focus should be on getting in tune with your body too, your nutrition, what works for you, what doesn't, making lifestyle changes. And the supplements should just be something that's supporting you along with that.
Okay, so some testimonials. There's a lot here, so I won't read through all of them, but you can just scan and read as I talk here. But these are some comments from women that we've worked with. These are women that have completed our programs in the past. Specifically, we have a free 5-day Renew Your Energy challenge. And we've gotten some really great feedback, and that feedback is what actually spurred us to create this program the way it is, because we got to learn so much more about the information that this group of women wanted to learn and the things that they were interested in, the struggles they had, and we really fine-tuned the Body Imbalance program based on all of this. So this is just here to show you that, we've not only been there ourselves, but we've helped hundreds of women to create better balance with their bodies and fix their hormones and just feel better. And this is stuff that we're not taught in other places, like outside of the functional realm, like the dieting industry and mainstream healthcare. It's just, these are things that we are missing out on, and we're here to just help guide you towards those. And as you can see, we've gotten a really positive response and have helped a lot of women just troubleshoot why they don't feel so great and little things they can do to get back in tune. So that's just to show you that.
And we had like over 140 women do it. So
yeah,
lots of cool feedback. So who is this program for? Body Imbalance is for women that are tired of always being tired, that deal with intense PMS symptoms or any PMS symptoms at all. If you have painful, irregular, or scanty periods, if you're struggling with hormonal challenges like PCOS, infertility, or endometriosis, if you're chronically stressed out, if you have really intense food cravings, if you suffer from digestive issues like bloating, constipation, or irregularity, if you're looking for a natural way to take control of your fertility, if you have a history of strict dieting and are confused about the best way to nourish your body, and if you're frustrated with how you feel in your body, and if you're looking for more balance with your nutrition, and especially for women who desire an enjoyable and sustainable lifestyle approach to a body imbalance. So if this resonates with you, we definitely recommend to keep listening.
Okay, so quickly, who is this not for? We wanted to throw this in there because it does really dive into like what this program is really going to help you with and what it does. So this program's not for, if you're looking for a quick fix, or maybe you're just looking to lose weight and don't really care about how you feel. But again, if you've made it this far, we think that that's probably not likely. But we want this program to be about, you're willing to make changes. Like, this stuff isn't necessarily easy, but we're teaching it in a way that step by step and is really positive. So you have to be willing and open to making those changes. You also have to be able to devote at least an hour a week to the program. So there is going to be presentations and guides and lots of info, but we want you not only to view those things, but also to do the journal prompts. These really help with reflection and, moving yourself along the program of reaching your goals. There is the support group that we think is so important to participate in. So if making sure that you're not just going to sign up for this and not actually do the work, because you have to do some of it to get the help. And we're here to do everything we can for you, but we can't do all the work for you. So if that's you and maybe you're just like totally not ready to commit, we understand. We're always here for you to come back to, but we want you to be open and excited about participating in your own healing journey. And that's what this whole program is really all about. This is a journey that you're going on, and it's exciting and it's amazing, and it's like a really beneficial thing for you to do no matter what point you are in your life, whether you're like a young girl who has issues with her periods, or maybe you're middle-aged and you're approaching menopause and you're having hormonal mood swings and issues and hot flashes. Like, wherever you are, take the time for yourself. This program can really help you.
So what do you get with the program? So you're going to get 16 video lessons. So it's 2 every single week. They're short, easy to watch, presentation style like this. 16 actionable guides plus bonus resources. We kind of expand on each week's topic with a resource in the format of like a PDF guide. You get a private community of support. We're also going to do weekly Q&As. We have this plan so far to do like a Q&A at nighttime each week. Most likely we'll poll the group. Plus lifetime access to online platforms and weekly check-in emails. We didn't put that on here. And just access to Kim and I in general, as well as a Body Imbalance welcome package. You're going to get a nice little welcome gift from us because we're really excited to have everyone that's going to participate in this group. You also get 8 to 12 weeks of nutritionist support. So if you're doing the foundational level, it's just that foundation program. It's 8 weeks. If you choose the VIP option, we actually extend it for 12 weeks so that we can make sure that we can be with you while you're finishing up your entire protocol. And then functional testing, a personalized protocol, one-on-one work with integrative nutritionists. Again, that is optional. You could go with the foundational option or the VIP option.
Okay, so what's the commitment? Now, we did mention we have 2 different levels. So our foundational level is $497, and our VIP level that includes all the testing and one-on-one work is $1197. Now, we're just throwing this in here because we think we're giving you a ton of information. You have access to us. Depending on which program option you choose, you'll have less or more. But, this is much more in-depth than you'd get working one-on-one. You're getting much more information. So we just wanted to put some comparisons there. Obviously, there is options to work with either one of us one-on-one. But for what you're getting with this program, this is, you're getting a ton of information. You're getting lifetime information. So we really just wanted to show you, this is so valuable. And we wanted to put it at a price point that was affordable for everybody. And we do actually have a discount offer for you. And we do offer payment plans because we want to be inclusive. We want to remove any financial barriers to getting help and starting to feel better. And then also, obviously, just your time. So it's not just about your money. It's about your time. This is a time commitment. And this is time that, you need to value for getting yourself feeling good and balancing your body and balancing your hormones. So this is all we ask of you in return of, all this information and as much support as we possibly can give you, because it's our goal to get you where you want to be.
Yeah, I think our mission, as we kind of continue to reflect as we're building the program and our website and everything, we're our goal is to just help as many women as we can feel their best. We just want to show you that you don't have to deal with all these symptoms all the time. It's not a part of getting older. We hear that a lot too. So in not being afraid to invest in yourself, I think for a really long time, I was like, I can't spend that much money on a lab test. That's ridiculous. And now I'm much more willing to get my hormones tested if I'm not feeling my best and what I'm doing isn't working. Because why guess? Why put yourself through that? Invest in yourself, invest in your health. I think it's something that we don't do enough of as women. And that's definitely one thing that, again, with the time commitment and stuff like that, thinking about that, it is an investment. And it's definitely a very worth it investment. Oops.
Okay, so your free gift. How you're going to get that gift. So we have our best tips to start optimizing your hormones. This is a guide. There's 10 really in-depth tips. Like I mentioned before, we have links to different products that we like, that we use ourselves, that we've researched. We have all these tips that, not just from this presentation, but even more, and just 10 ways that you can start optimizing and balancing your hormones in your daily life. So because you signed up for this webinar, you'll be receiving an email that has not only the replay link if you want to watch again or maybe miss some parts, but also a link for that guidebook as well. And then your special bonus we have for being here through March 30th, we're offering $50 off the foundational level and $100 off the VIP level. So like I mentioned, we do have payment plans, and this, regardless if you choose to pay up front or choose a payment plan, we're offering this discount for a little over a week now. So this is open. This program registration is open. It's limited. We only have 30 spots for that VIP level. So if you are contemplating signing up, maybe you're not sure which one you want to sign up for, we're here to answer your questions. We'll tell you how you can contact us. But basically, these spots are limited. So if you're interested at all, we definitely recommend take advantage of this bonus and this discount.
And you'll see the link if you want to look at. So we made a page, kind of we have a shorter video on the page, but also everything that's in the programs. And it's just bit.ly.com/BIB program. That will also send you the link in the email with the replay and your freebie, and a reminder letting you know that the discount is going to end on March 30th, which is next Friday.
Yes.
So we just want to say thank you so much especially if you made it this long. Thank you. We hope that you found this information valuable. We are going to literally right now go and get that email ready to send to you for the replay and your freebie. We appreciate your time. We hope that you got some value from this webinar.
Absolutely. And if you have questions, reply to that email from us, hello@bodyimbalancenutrition.com. We can set up a call with you to go over any questions you have. Maybe you're deciding if the program's right for you or which option.
Okay.